Hey guys, and welcome back to Dream a Little, the ABDL show that is all about building confidence so you can share your kinky fantasy with the person that you love most. Before we get started, I just need to bust a huge myth that I keep hearing over and over again. And that myth is it's easier for girls to open up about ABDL. Guys, that is so not the case. First of all, I can tell you from firsthand experience, there is nothing easy about opening up about something so deeply personal, no matter who you are. And when it comes to sharing your kink, the playing field is level. It's all about your mindset. Until you are able to accept your own kinks, it's going to be incredibly hard to convince someone else to give it a shot. Our guest today, MJ, totally gets this. I'll give you a little backstory. MJ and I got acquainted on Tumblr. His Tumblr is e-c-daddy. If you don't have a pen handy, don't worry. You can find all that information by clicking the link in the show notes. It'll take you to a blog post with a summary of this episode and a link to find him. Anyways, when MJ told me that he had opened up to over 4 girls and had a positive experience each time, that's when I knew I had to have him on the show. And when he told me that some of his exes are still into this kink even after they broke up, my mind was blown. And I just want to show you that being a guy with this kink is not a disadvantage. It's all about confidence and the way that you bring it up. So if you're not sure how to make your kink sound fun, if you're afraid of being rejected, if you're afraid of being outed, you've got to listen to this episode. And don't forget to download my free guide, 6 Stages of Coming Out Kinky at thelittlelounge.com. As always, I'll link to this in the show notes. It's a free roadmap you can use to plan how you're going to open up to your partner. All right, let's get started. Hey, MJ, thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited that you decided to come on the show. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What do you identify as? Are you a little, big, switch, ABDL, all these terms? Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I'm kind of a combination of them all, but primarily daddy in the DDLG world.
Okay.
But I've dabbled in ABDL, and I do have my own little side.
Okay, so you are technically a switch, but you kind of primarily identify as more of a daddy type.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. How old were you when you first realized that you had this kind of kink?
Well, I didn't know it was a kink to start. It probably happened when I was like 7 or 8 years old. I just saw one of my little cousin's diapers and I was like, oh man, like something made me want to try it. And when I did, it just felt so relaxing, so at peace. And that continued on through my teenage years, which eventually I came across the kink and I was like, oh, this is what it is. So it was kind of nice to like finally have some context.
Yeah, because you're just like, oh, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. Other people are into this too.
Yeah.
Awesome. So do any of your friends or family members know about your kinks, or is it something that you keep to yourself?
No family. I suspect that maybe 1 or 2 friends might know, but I think that they're also like a little too. But a few of my significant others, ex-significant others know about it.
Wait, why do you suspect that some of your friends know about your kinks?
Well, there's actually this one girl I'm friends with where we were hanging out a few weeks ago, and I went to her bathroom, and I noticed in her trash the packaging to an "Aw, so cute" pacifier, and I was like, oh my God. But I don't want to come out and directly ask her, because if she wanted me to know, she'd tell me.
Yeah. Well, and then you put yourself in her position, right? And you go, I would be so embarrassed if someone brought that up. But then at the same time, I feel like when you have this kind of kink, you are so careful about the trash that you have. And
that's why I was so surprised. I was like, wait, what? But she lives alone, so I wonder if that's why it was like there. She wasn't actively thinking.
Or maybe she's actually trying to drop some hints to you.
That's always a possibility.
I'm sure. Well, I don't know you that well, of course, so tell me if I'm wrong. But it seems like when you have this kind of kink, you give off those daddy vibes, and it kind of like bleeds out into your everyday life a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had like friends, like they joke around and be like, oh my God, you're such a dad. Just for like minor things that I just think are like the right thing to do.
Yes.
So like if I'm walking down the street with a friend, I'll make sure she's on the inside of the sidewalk rather than the outside. And she's like, that's such a dad thing to do. And I'm like, shut
You
up.
have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, nervously sweating.
Yeah. That's actually how I kind of had the courage to open up to my boyfriend, is because he didn't really know about this whole daddy dom thing, but he had those kind of qualities and showed that in his everyday life. Just it kind of ties into just being a gentleman. I feel like it could be interchangeable.
It really does when you think about it. Because I mean, it's just respecting someone and letting them open up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So have you ever opened up to a partner about this who was vanilla?
Yeah, because I figured straight out the gate, it's like if you can't be honest with them, then it can like ruin the relationship down the road or maybe not work out. And then like I heard your story about your first significant other, how it was a train wreck, but
yes.
Yeah. So I tried dropping like little hints at the beginning of the relationship.
Okay, wait. Tell me about these hints.
All right. So my last relationship, my girlfriend, Valentine's Day was coming up and I was like, oh, what would you like for Valentine's Day? And she's like, I would actually like a bodysuit. So then as a joke, I sent her one of the onesies that I saw online, just like a plain one, not anything with hearts or like the unicorns or anything. Just be like, oh, something like this. Haha. And she goes, what the heck? That looks like a big onesie. And I was like, oh, you can rock it. Like just a little teasing back and forth. But then like just other little things like that to slowly like get her into it.
I love how, she was kind of put off a little bit, it seems at first, and you were just so confident about it. Like you just went with it regardless. You weren't getting self-conscious about it and getting like, oh man, she doesn't like it. You're like, oh, don't worry, you can rock it. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where if you show you're nervous or uncomfortable, it's going to make them feel the same way.
Yes.
So fake it till you make it kind of deal.
Yes. Actually, that's one of the biggest lessons that I had to learn. So have you always had this self-confidence, or is it something that you've developed over time?
Kind of developed over time. It depends on who the individual is, because like to me, relationships are really important. And I don't like just getting in a relationship just to be in one. So I have to feel like I can actually get a solid connection with the person. So the confidence comes from my decision to be in the relationship because I know I'm here and I'm committed, if that makes sense.
I get what you're saying. I feel like it's kind of, you're not going to just date anyone. You have set standards for yourself as well.
Yes.
Is that what you're trying to say too?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I totally get that. And that's something I realized with my boyfriend currently is, I was so worried in the past about, will they like me? Will they accept me? But I have to look out for me too and see if they're
absolutely.
a good fit for me. And I have these needs. And if they don't fit that, then I'll try again with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. So you opened up to how many people in the past?
4.
4. Okay. So have they all been positive experiences, or have you had a negative experience?
They were positive in the sense of open-mindedness and being willing to try. Whether it continued, it depended on the relationship. So my last significant other, she was fully into, full ABDO. Like she was perfectly fine. But then another one, she wouldn't go past anything like pacifier related or wanted me to be little. So it was kind of like, that was kind of the negative experience, but never like a freak out.
Okay. So how do you test to see if, how can you be sure that, okay, this is the right time to open up? I'm sure that this person is at least going to be open-minded towards it.
There is no, for me, it didn't feel like any set time. It was just, you have to go with your gut instinct.
And are these people that you open up to, are they kind of kinky in their own ways, or are they at least sexual beings, would you say?
2 of them were, 2 of them were not.
Okay. The people that weren't, was it a little bit harder to talk to them about this?
They were just more shy on the topic, kind of, and with lack of knowledge or anything to relate it to. It took a little bit more effort on my side. To
kind of back up what you said with this is normal and this is...
Yeah. Meanwhile, the other 2, it was more just I was open-minded about theirs. They were open-minded about mine.
I think it's easier when they have their own kinks than they are sexual people.
Yeah, but then it's also like you got to get a feel for those type of people too, because like they might not want to tell you and you might not want to tell them. So you're at like a standoff.
Yeah. So how long into the relationship until you tell someone usually?
I usually like, I don't know, because like you said earlier, like certain people just exert that daddy quality.
Yes.
So that's already there right off the bat. So I always just drop little hints. One of my significant others, back when we first started dating, I asked her, oh, do you want to go hang out tonight? And she's like, oh no, it's going to be way past my bedtime. And I was like, oh, why are you too little for this?
Yes. And you kind of just test and see how they react, right? Like,
yeah, like I don't want to overload too much information. I don't want to like overwhelm them. So it's like slowly adding a little bit. And then eventually it usually came to like, okay, like what have you been hinting at? And then you explain it. And once they see like how they've fallen into that role either naturally or like how it hasn't been like a drastic adjustment, they're usually like, oh, wow, like it just connects the pieces.
Okay. So can we talk about like how the conversation goes? Is this usually in person or do you do this like over the phone or through text?
The little hints?
No, like the actual conversation when you come out, and like, do you mention DDLG or ABDL, like using those acronyms, or do you avoid using words like that, if that makes sense?
At first, I'll avoid using terms like that only because there's a lot of like false information that people can find online and it's been portrayed wrong by media.
Okay. Yes.
So when I first Googled ABDL, a scene from 1,000 Ways to Die popped up.
Oh my God. Oh no.
It was just like a really creepy older dude. And it was just like portraying what the stereotype is. And I was just like,
The second search is probably Jerry Springer.
No, I've actually never seen that one.
Okay, you got to watch that. If it's very cringeworthy, don't ever show it to someone who's vanilla.
Oh God, yeah. So I try to avoid the acronyms and stuff because, right, starting off, it's you got to test the waters, and you don't want to give them something that can show them really bad information. They'd be like, "Oh my God, what the hell."
Don't give them enough information so they can go and do a Google search, basically, right?
Kind of, yeah.
And kind of categorize you in that, in whatever comes up. Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you explain it?
I just explain like I have a little bit more of a nurturing side and I want to see them like grow, develop, but I also want them to be able to open up to me every way possible. And that sounded a little intense, but
no, I love it.
I don't know. There's a certain like level of vulnerability and like trust it takes. So I kind of try to base it off that.
Oh my gosh, that is so true. That is so true because there are so many elements that I feel like people with this kink forget about, like all the positive sides, the trust, the vulnerability, and all of those elements that make it appealing. But those goes out the window and you just focus in on like the most taboo part, which is like the diapers and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
which for me, a huge thing with me was being able to trust a significant other with me being little.
Yes.
Like that was scarier than like ever mentioning this stuff to them.
Being a daddy comes naturally to you.
Yeah. So
it's like, I hear a lot of guys talking about this. They feel like they're not going to be seen as masculine as before.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of it, but I try to get that out of my head because it's like, if the person cares about you, they're there for you and they can understand there's different sides.
And it's just pretend.
Yeah. So it's also like, I don't know. I've seen people that have mommy side, little side kind of deal, but just because they're little doesn't mean I see them as less as a mommy and vice versa.
Yes. So I think it's important to date someone who understands that role playing is just that. It's a role. It's not really who you are in your day-to-day life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's a costume. It's a role, you know? Absolutely.
Yeah, unless you're one of the 24/7 people.
Yes, which I'm not, and I know that you're not either.
Nope, I have 3 jobs where that would be very frowned upon.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like it would get really boring after a while, too.
Yeah, probably.
So, do you have any other advice for people who might be struggling to open up about this? Because I feel like a lot of people have a hard time with it, and it seems like you've mastered the art of kind of opening up.
I don't know. It's one of those things where you have to know how that individual is before you can even consider opening up to them. You can't lie to yourself and be like, oh, I'll say it and hopefully it'll be okay. You actually have to think, how might they react and like, what's the best way to approach it? So my best piece of advice is just make sure you're with someone who you're willing to see that side of you. One thing that actually just popped in my head from experience is if you get close to your significant other and you tell them something from your personal life outside of the kink, and based on how they react or if they tell others, that should tell you if you can trust them with something deep and personal like that, if that makes sense.
Yes. And another favorite of mine is if they've ever said the words, oh, so-and-so told me this, but I wasn't supposed to tell anyone, but I'm going to tell you. That's how you know.
That's a red flag.
Totally. And I feel like adding to what you said, some people, for some reason, think that by telling someone about this, it will help fix any problems they have going on. But I feel like you really need to have a strong relationship first in order for this to ever work out.
Yeah. And trust is another huge thing. So I've been very fortunate to where none of my significant others have told other people. And ironically, they're all still into it. But
you've converted them. I love it. You've totally converted them.
Yeah, I just think it's funny. So,
okay, really quick. I know we're running out of time here, but the first time you role play as daddy or little or whatever, what do you usually stick to? Do you keep it simple or do you go all out?
Do you mean the first time with the individual?
Yes, the first time with the individual.
I just tell them, if we'll try as much as they want, kind of give me a broad spectrum of what you think you'll be okay with. And then as we progress, I just tell by their body language or how they're acting if it's okay to do more. But I don't think, especially right at the beginning, it's a good thing to just unload everything. You know what I mean?
Yes. And when do you get them to wear, basically? When do you start introducing more intense parts of the role play?
Whenever they're comfortable, or even if they ask about it. My last significant other actually asked about diapers the first time we played. She put on a onesie, and then she's like, wouldn't this fit better or be cuter if I had a diaper on?
Oh my God. You are you've had the best experience.
I've been fortunate about it, luckily.
Wait, so she brought it up?
Well, she knew that they were a thing, but then she was like, oh, should I whiff this? And then I was like, if you want to. And then she started off with good nights, and then depends, and then the actual online ABDL ones.
And she really liked it, and she's still into it.
Yeah, that's not the primary aspect that she likes, but she will occasionally.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Wow. Well, this has been really, really helpful.
Yeah.
I'd love it if you could tell us your social media so people can find you. You're on Tumblr, right?
Yeah, my Tumblr is E, and then a side dash, not the slash, but just a sideways one.
Yeah.
C, and then another dash, and then daddy.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely link to that in the show notes. Thank you so much for talking to me. I had so much fun getting to know you.
No worries. I appreciate it.
All right. Let's definitely keep in touch.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.
This episode was sponsored by Patreon. If you'd like to support this show while also getting cool rewards like early access to new episodes, one-on-one phone calls with me, and access to a community of like-minded people, check out patreon.com/dreamalittle.